Well, hello, that's me again. Today is February 9th, 2025. It is Sunday. It is the end of weekend for some people in Europe, most likely. Here it is just the start of the day. And the reason I'm coming to you in this moment, although it's not unique for me to do the Sunday videos, is because of that. And it is, I cannot emphasize enough and stress enough the nature, PR nature of this whole thing. However, Mr. Trump suddenly says that he called Putin or he spoke to Putin. Obviously, Vladimir Putin has no really interest of calling Washington because a Russian position, including as was reiterated by Mr. Nebenzia, Russia's representative in the United Nations Security Council, about United States and what it has to do. However, the New York Post has not provided any quotes from the reported phone call. That's the New York Post which reported, and allegedly there are now deep fakes, obviously, circulating, mostly created by the Ukrainian site, which, basically they overimpose the Russian narration there, and they assign to Trump words which he doesn't even say. But let's concentrate on what New York Post provided. Essentially, he, as we all know, Trump loves PR. This is what he does, and this is what Legerdemain is. And you have to understand what Legerdemain is. It's basically, well, in a sense, is PR. It's creation of the alternative reality, which is not reality. And when asked how many times he had been in contact with Putin, he noted, I better not say. And basically what he stated while walking somewhere where that he wants to see people stop dying, Trump said when he was talking allegedly with Putin. All those dead people, young, beautiful people. Here we have the classic Trump, where he has no descriptive powers and he uses the high school adjective stream, like beautiful, wonderful, amazing, and things of this nature. This is absolutely not the verbiage which is have to be used by the President of the United States. However, he uses this, and he talks this sappy sentimental BS that they are like your kids, 2 million of them, and for no reason. It is unclear from what data, as RT correctly states, he derived the exact figure and what time frame he was referring to. We can say immediately now that neither Kellogg, his Trump's representative, nor Trump himself, they operate with the proper numbers. Now, according to New York Post, he delivered the remarks while accompanied by National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. While addressing him, he noted, let's get this meeting going, they want to meet, every day people are dying. And this obviously completely contradicts, first, Moscow pretty much keeps mum on this issue because this is the practice of the serious statesmen, not to, basically BS people around themselves. And Mr. Peskov already stated that Moscow cannot confirm or otherwise about this talk. But what happens, and this is, I'm not going out on the limb here, there only what was happening that Trump indeed probably tried and probably called Vladimir Putin, and guess what? We know what has been stated, which evidently even confirmed by Trump when he stated that Russian interest must be taken in the account. That's the only thing. Other than that, it is all platitude, sappy sentimental BS, and this is probably why it was done. Whatever the Trump's plan is, and as you already know, I many times on record, ad nauseam, in fact, that there is no plan. The only thing he can do is to pretend that he tries to resolve the issue, which he cannot resolve physically, because the United States is the participant of this conflict, and it is the, it's not objective observer. And fact is, in this particular case, any brokerage, so to speak, from the United States, and especially from Mr. Trump, nothing more than Legerdemain. It is the PR And that's what it is. It is all designed for the solution of some kind of the internal issues in the United States, and for Trump's promises, which already have been broken many times, including this famous one, which he will stop the war in 24 hours. And you have to keep in mind that actually military aid from the United States continues to pour into Ukraine. Granted, it is a trickle now, and the United States simply is not in the position to fight any serious war of the 21st century. And I mean literally, the United States military industrial complex cannot provide the proper flow of the weapons. And in the end, the question which we have to address here, while still number of the cities and villages are falling to Russians, or Russians liberate them, and uncover more and more atrocities of those young, beautiful, wonderful people Trump thinks about, because they were talking about the neo-Nazi regime in Kiev, and which is supported by the United States. And the fact is, the United States simply cannot continue this because it simply doesn't have resources. And they may try, but again, there are Pentagon amateurs compared in the operational planning and conducting war to Russian general staff. And many people would have to understand what happened on the 5th of April. And this is, well, it's not shocking. It is anticipated and talked about within Russian military circles for a long while now. And Vladimir Putin signed the executive order, and he removed by this executive order a simple term which is called inter-service when it comes down to the military districts in Russia. This is the last nail into coffin of the pro-Americans. Instead, pro-American, not in the sense that it was for America, but in the attempts of to copy all those U.S. Army and U.S. Armed Forces commands and all those ideas of the Mr. Serdyukov reforms, which were started by him and then Chief of the General Staff, Mr. Makarov, which was essentially, they almost broke the army, precisely because after that, Russian army and Russian armed forces started to actually roll back all those things, those so-called reforms, which were applauded, by the way, in the West, and they thought that the Russians were copying. In a sense, they were forced by incompetent people to do so, and guess what? Everything have been rolled back now to the normal state of Russian military, where actually it is the territorial principle of the forming of the military districts, and basically the operational planning and execution of operations have been fully returned to the services, such as the VKS, which is the airspace forces, and the Navy. I know many people were popping up champagne or whiskey in Russian Navy celebrating this, because now it's back to the way it's supposed to be, that General Staff conducts general command and control or operational control of the Russian armed forces. They provide the overall guidance to their, including, for example, the such things as the military industrial orders for development of the technologies and things like that. But it is all done now based on the services input. And services, for example, like Navy or VKS or airspace forces, they conduct their operations within the strategic framework, which is set up by Russian General Staff, but within the operational and strategic capabilities which they have and which they develop. Finally, it is the last coffin, last rolling back of this BS of the NATO and Western armed forces, which never won a freaking war and lost all of them, and all those commands, you know, like they operate in the United States, is simply not applicable for the type of the wars Russia conducted historically, and this is very much anticipated and expected development, and there are many celebrations right now all across the armed forces of Russia. And special military operation, of course, helped to push this, the remnants of the complete screw up by Serdyukov back and return Russian armed forces to the most powerful army in the world. Simple as that. And that's what also Mr. Trump probably doesn't know. He cannot even, and his, most of his advisors, they cannot even grasp what is happening. But this is not just it. For example, if we look attentively at today's dynamics of the losses, which is very critical, you can see yourself, it kind of went back up a little bit. And yeah, I don't know why he takes 2 million people, but yeah, we can say that clearly that over a million of the killed on the Ukrainian side, and just this day there's 1,520 killed in all along the whole line of the combat contact, and this is just part of the issues which NATO and United States has to face. And if you take a look even at Kursk, losses. So for yesterday, actually, as you can see yourself, total losses for the 8th of February were 58,550, 350 tanks, 254 infantry fighting vehicles. This is Kursk alone. And while I'm speaking about it, you can see yourself what is happening in Kursk for the last half a year, well, not half a year, 5 months. Then you can see yourself how it was shaped by Russian first defense, and then reducing all those pockets, and they continue the Ukrainian forces, and obviously under the guidance of such people like London, and those amateurs from the British Army, they continue to pour in all this meat, which is being slaughtered on the incredible scale, and they will continue to do that until it's all collapses, and it is collapsing on the all other segments of the front. But you can look up, including those, and I mean it, piles of the corpses, Russians uncovering piles, literally piled one over another of the Ukrainian soldiers, and they continue to commit atrocities of the unimaginable scale, including torturing, killing even the veterans of the Great Patriotic War. Some guy who is 90 years old, they still killed him before torturing him. You can look up those videos, they are all available everywhere across the media platforms, and I don't need to put it here, otherwise I will be simply, just completely demonetized and completely removed from YouTube. So, and I assume you don't want to, witness that. So, and then we have to also continue to, so to speak, speaking about the whole proceedings there. And now we have, when we talk about Mr. Trump, we have Mr. Trudeau, outgoing Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, has been caught on the hot mic telling businessmen that US President Donald Trump is not joking when he talks about absorbing Canada, the Toronto Star newspaper has reported. And he said, I would love to see that, Trump says. Some people say that that would be a long shot. If people wanted to play the game right, it would be 100% certain that they would become a state. And pardon me, Trudeau. Well, I can tell you what, Canadians, you have to face the fact that no more Tim Hortons, mostly Starbucks and, Dunkin' Donuts. No, I'm just screwing with you. But actually, Canada, it would be wise for Canada to finally get itself the culture of the chicken fried steaks, which was, whenever I travel in Canada, I can never get chicken fried steak. This is horrible. So, and yeah, if they become 51st state, probably this American culture of deep frying their wonderful beef probably will, rub off Canadians. I'm being facetious, of course. But the fact is, yeah, this is what Mr. Trump does. He generated an enormous amount of the rhetoric and all kinds of the executive orders. Some of them are really good orders. Some of them have been, long overdue, including of course, the whole, basically, epic, so to speak, events happening around the USAID. But that has to be spoken in a separate video, because this is just absolutely amazing. And yeah, that's basically tells you now that United States doesn't have independent U.S. media. They are all propaganda machine financed by all those New York Times politicals, Washington Post. So whenever some jerk from CNN or political tells you that, oh yeah, I'm a journalist, no, you're not. You're a whore. All of them are, including being literally whore. They sell themselves sometimes for small privileges, So prostitutes actually do better job, I guess. You pay them money for whatever their service, and you get what you see, basically. Not with these guys. They have no honor, integrity, or anything. And so obviously USAD being dismantled, at least in its existing form, it makes them very sad and good. They deserve totally, together with all this class of people who absolutely have no skills, they have no any intents to contribute to the society, and if you look across the American universities, all those professors from the humanities, most of them are lazy sons of and they do not even possess proper knowledge or proper education to teach anything. And that's what is interesting, because some of my friends from Czech Republic sent me, they posted in the they posted it on the discussion boards in my blog, and you have to take a look at this very interesting situation from Czech Republic when they talk about those people who literally they are freeloaders. And when you look attentively, and we talk a lot about color revolutions and all these insidious activities by CIA and all kind of people like that, look at this. Here is one of the media from Czech Republic, and it talks about that a Prague cafe is in shock. We will never go to work. America is evil. You know why? Of course, America stopped the actually financing of those freeloaders. A million moments for not working. Exactly. And these are the people who conduct actually overthrowing of the legitimate governments, and that's the only thing they do. And look, he is beautifully defines what it is, for example, in Czechia. In the Czech Republic alone, there are, in words, about 1 million unproductive people who do nothing and have a lot. And it is not just Jourova, he talks about some of the politicians there, and her crazy retirement for not working. That's almost all non-profits, especially political ones. These are subsidy redistributors, subsidy controllers, subsidy approvers, and people who fill in subsidies, subsidy trainers, subsidy collectors, then political scientists, political geographers, or every year half of Charles University and half of universities. They take high salaries, and the state loses more on them than on high unemployment. This is exactly what is happening in Europe, and paradoxically, this is exactly what is happening in the United States, which is filled with people who are actually useless. Literally, all those political scientists, all those departments of the international relations, political scientists, history departments, and all that, journalism, sociology, all that. Those are freeloaders. Those are the main agents of the change which happened and which essentially destroyed the United States through Obama and Biden administrations. These are those people, and they do this because they do not want to work. They cannot produce any productive labor. They cannot contribute to the society because they are, as Mr. Schumpeter wrote in 1945, precisely the class of the people who actually create their own basically system or criteria of how to judge their achievements. It's like Hollywood. They produce garbage and they get Oscars for that. You have some professor like Michael McFaul from Stanford. The guy is a certified moron. He cannot even speak proper Russian, but he passes for the Russian scholar. And this is what it is. And then those people redistribute themselves into the CIA, into all kinds of those think tanks. They are useless, and most of them morons. How Mr. Mencken stated, morons with PhDs. And this is exactly what it is. And Czechs get it, because basically the political instability comes primarily from those people, from those students, and those useless, absolutely, easy, soft degrees and all kinds of garbage, which is not applicable to the real life. Well, of course, engineering, national scientists, STEM, it's hard. It's hard. You need to work hard. But in those places, yeah, it's very easy. It's very easy to study, and there you go. And they pretend that they get the education. They are not. Most of them are uneducated morons with a brain and who are completely brainwashed. And here we have to come to, for example, the such country as France. Oh, people say, oh, you don't like, Britain or Germany, whatever. I don't like political elites in Europe in general. All of them. They are all whores. They are all chihuahuas. And here is Maria Zakharova talking about them, France, and I can only subscribe to her words completely. And it is what it is. The whole history of the France of the second half, starting from 1939, actually tells you that Paris backs neo-Nazism in Ukraine. And she correctly states it. The French authorities have unquestionably supported the rise of neo-Nazism in Ukraine. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova has said. She emphasized that the Kiev regime has turned into an international terrorist cell with the connivance of its Western backers. Absolutely. United States also supported. United States supports atrocities against Russians. So, and that is why, Russians laugh at Trump when he... Legerdemain, guys. So she says, Paris is officially supporting some kind of incredible and insane force of neo-Nazism which has flourished in Ukraine, Zakharova said in interview with RIA Novosti, published on Sunday. Moreover, the neo-Nazism in Ukraine has already turned into the terrorism it has mutated. Absolutely, Mrs. Merkel supports them. And of course, starting from Mr. Holland, that was Holland and Merkel who were lying to Russian faces. Now we have Mr. Macron who supports neo-Nazis, and believe me, many French support it too. Do you remember Vichy government? They surrendered, without even putting up serious fight. You know why? Because in the end, Hitler and Nazism wasn't necessarily too bad for them. There was no necessity to sacrifice yourself for, fighting the independence and the honor of your country. And so we had the Dunkirk, where British basically ran away, and we have the France, which surrendered. And they lived with Vichy government just fine. So Paris was never bombed or burned, so yeah, that's what it was. So, and now we have this situation. So, and I have to explain that the situation is such that people, I don't know, they really are hurting. They somehow have this issue of facing the reality. And so what we have now is this. France transfers their Mirage fighters to Ukraine, and they are so proud about those Mirage fighters, which are Mirage 2000-5. I don't know why they are so proud about it, because it is obsolete aircraft which will change absolutely nothing, and you have to understand what it is done for. As correctly Douglas McGregor states, they just want, scratch, speed, and harm Russians by any means. And so they talk about this, that, French delivered those Mirage 2000-5 aircraft. The jets will be flown by Ukrainian pilots who will have undergone training in France. A representative of Rostec said if it attempts to deploy them for dogfights or airstrikes near the front line are made, they will be promptly shut down when he was asked to comment on the prospects of Kyiv use of the French warplanes. So yeah, and he correctly states that Mirage, the same as F-16, is an obsolete aircraft that is significantly inferior to modern Russian fighter jets. Let's take a look at actually pure military porn data. So let's take a look at what Mirage is. So here is Mirage data. This Mirage, this specific type of the Mirage, is the a major advantage of flying Western jets is their ability to interface with NATO ordnance such as Scalp, Storm, Shadow. Correct. This is the only reason why this obsolete plane will be, used for as the platform of the standoff somewhere away from Russian air defense and Russian Air Force launch of all those cruise missiles, most of which are intercepted anyway, and probably they think that they can intercept some kind of the slow strike weapon system such as the geranium drones, but that's about it. And so what do we have at those planes? The first delivery of Ukraine would be a batch of 3 aircraft armed with the MBDA Mica air-to-air missile and Scalp cruise missiles, as well as France ASM hammer-guided bombs, French daily La Tribune reported in October. And so they have that description of the Mirage 2000-5 is an air superiority version. It's not air superiority, it is obsolete, and the jets for Ukraine were being upgraded with the new equipment for air-to-ground combat and defense electronic warfare. Yeah, they will get them some new laser pod for ground attack, which they will be useless anyway because they will be shut down immediately whenever they appear within 200 kilometers of the front line. And so, as you can see yourself, the original version flew first time in 1978, and yeah, this is what they will be used. Probably it's they can remain on station for 2 hours 40 minutes at a distance of 150 nautical miles from its departure base, according to Dassault Aviation. So what do they carry? And they carry this thing, and yeah, it's Mica. Here it is. It's the latest version on the Rafale. It is air-to-air missile. It has 2 variants, infrared and active. This is shoot and forget radar homing device. And if you take a look at the tactical parameters of this Mica, it's really pathetic, honestly. And so this is from Air Force Technology, and they give you this Mica, which is the longest thing France can provide actually to Ukraine, or for that matter for itself, that the range is between 500 meters and 60 kilometers. Well, the latest version evidently has been increased to 80 kilometers, which is still pathetic and still retains it in the modern air-to-air combat as the short-range weapon. Even AMRAAM, AIM-120, which is the longest missile United States Air Force has the range of about 150 kilometers. So what else this Mirage has? Mirage has this, well, pretty middle of the road, pretty standard radar. It's a Doppler radar, and they call it RDY, RDM, which is the radar Doppler model. Y, or radar Doppler multi-target radar, is operating in the X band, and so, yeah, they talk about all different kinds of the radar. It's pretty standard radar, which first time saw the light of the day in 1997. Since then, it was somewhat upgraded, and as you can see yourself, instrumental range of this radar is 120 kilometers. It is instrumental range. They said that they achieved in the even 140 kilometers, but again, it is against the large targets. And so what these Mirages will face, let's be very frank with this. First, they will face these guys. Obviously, it is Su-57s, and Russia has already evidently 2 full regiments of the combat planes of this nature. And Su-57 carries the radar called Belka. It's the AISA, active electronically scanned array, and it has the range in excess of 400 kilometers. As does, for example, this really teeny-weeny missile, of which I already spoke many times on many occasions, and this is obviously R-37. This is a very, very, to put it mildly, impressive missile, and this is even from the 2018. So the R-37M is the only of its class to boost a range exceeding 300 kilometers. Evidently, it has up to 400 kilometers. For comparison, the US MRAM AIM-120D has a maximum range of over 180 kilometers, and this is actually not have been confirmed. Compared to its predecessors, the R-37 version boasts a new guidance systems and reduced weight, enabling it to be installed on smaller platforms. It is also fully hypersonic, Mach 6 air-to-air missile. And if that hasn't been enough, of course, you have obviously, well, the other aircraft which Russians fly, and, well, how to put it, if they want to meet Su-35, which is, of course, also horrifying weapon, carries horrifying weapons, so, well, we can immediately talk about it, for example, as you can see yourself, Su-35, and it was already 12 years ago. Already then, Su-35s, in accordance to consent CRET, which is consent radio electronica, is well, look at this yourself. IRBIS is the most powerful radar control system in the world. Although it's PISA, passive electronically scanned array. But again, this is the whole other thing for those masturbators from the gamers and who watch too much of the Top Gun, that the whole other story about ISA and PESA radars. But here it is. It allows a combat aircraft to detect an air object at a record distance of up to 400 kilometers, track up to 30 targets at the same time, and fire up to 8 objects. So there you go. And when you take a look at those weapons, and then you, of course, you take a look at this other thing. And this thing is, of course, yeah, MiG-31 with its own Zaslon, a massive radar, and it can basically shoot at anything at very long distances, way in excess of anything any NATO, including the latest weapon systems, can even reach, not even close. And then we also can take a look at what they call Abramsky, but it's Russian R-77 missile, which has the range of up to 200 kilometers, officially 190 kilometers, which still outranges the American MRAM AIM-120D. So this is the type of the weaponry, not to mention this thing, which they already encountered many times when, you know, Russians have obviously real full-blown capable AWACS on the completely own A-50, well, which is kind of glorified IL-76 platforms. And so, and then, of course, we're talking about the issue of that there's simply not enough aircraft. And then again, the air defense, this is all network. This is all net-centric. Everything from the air defense complexes on the ground to the AWACS or the, you know, early warning systems to such aircraft as Su-35, Su-30SM, which carries also both. They are upgraded to IRBIS radar, and they carry their both R-37 and R-77s, everything network. And that is why when Russians say that, yeah, and Russian officers, Russian specialists say that, yeah, the basically combat effectiveness of no less than 90%, they don't mean just air defense only. It is whole complex of things which VKS, airspace forces, provide, and this is amazing achievement, technological, and, you know, so I'm not gonna go into the electronics because many people will have their, you know, what their day ruined, especially those fanboys of all those, you know, SML and things like that, how Russians do this. Well, Russians produce their own microelectronics, and some of it is extremely advanced. So, but the point is that this is what we have, and they will face this, so Russians are rubbing their hands. Hey, there are many aces there in Russia today, and the rewards, I don't think so Mirage will worth as much in reward as it was with the F-16, but yeah, they will be shut down. So, and obviously, what can I say? It is just the reality on the grounds and on the ground, and that's the whole point. That's the whole point about this Legerdemain and about those platitudes Trump continues to spew non-stop, because United States simply has no means to do anything about it. And here we have, just to prove to you, a very interesting observation from the person who, unlike me, he is plugged in into all those high-level Russian diplomatic activity, and this is Mr. Gatilov, who speaks about this yesterday. He talks about that the United States is not ready for a serious discussion with Russia on nuclear disarmament. And he's talking about that, yeah, Americans do not want to consider Russian interest. Well, I know why. We have to know why. But he actually reported a very interesting thing. As reported early on Sunday, Gatilov noted that the US diplomats suddenly became invisible and unheard at United Nations meetings. And why it is so? Well, the bluff has been called. It has been called long time ago. And the only thing Biden administration or Obama administration, who are absolutely ignorant about Russia or about military affairs or about practical applied geopolitics, they never knew what was coming for them. And now they face the fact that the reason United States will not talk to Russians about START because it has literally zero to offer. The only thing which United States can offer and negotiate with Russians is to reducing of the whole number of the warheads or carriers of warheads. But Russians are not giving up their weapons, which even in conventional way can create a disaster, equaling if you have the megaton level nuclear device exploding. And we're talking for example, Oreshnik. Have you seen Yuzhmash photos recently? Nope. It's been already, what, 2 months? More. And you're not going to see them. You know why? Because first, they're probably still working on those mock-ups to put in place. But then again, Russians have those photos. And they cannot come out and admit that what Russians did conventionally, it's a game changer. And this is not one game changer. Practically every single Russian weapon on the battlefield to the high level technological level, high technology, high complexity weapons, they are game changers, including all those interesting satellites Russians launched. One of them launched successfully a few days ago. So, and how you approach this, how you want to negotiate anything with what? You have nothing. You can only have legerdemains. And fact is, Mr. Trump, trying to present himself as a Trump card, has to understand he is not Trump. Russia has and holds the old Trump cards, including jokers. United States has a very weak hand, if any hand at all. And that's what we observe through and through. Plus, of course, this simple fact that disclosing things which probably have been done in private, Trump proved that you cannot negotiate with the United States. I mean, the United States has to sort itself out internally, and it has a lot of things to do to right itself a little bit, after the horror of the Obama and Biden administrations. And that's when then Russians will start talking, maybe. So, and this is what I wanted to tell you today. On this Sunday, and as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel, and those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee until that will allow me to continue to do what I'm doing. So have a nice rest of your weekend, guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.